Okay, here we go. So this one is a mile a minute. A mile a minute. Now, that just means very fast. It actually means 60 miles per hour. Like if you were driving in a car, uh, 60 miles an hour is a mile a minute. But it sounds like a mile a minute. It sounds kind of cool, right, when you say it. Uh, and I can remember when I was riding as a little kid with my mom, I would say, "How long before we get there?" And if it was 13 miles, she'd say, "Okay, we're going a mile a minute right now, so it's going to take us 13 minutes," right? So, uh, anyway, so a mile a minute. Let me take a look at these examples I got set up here. Or it's usually used with talking or thinking. All right. So, and I'll get to this guy later, right? This is a big special part of my childhood memories, right? Okay. So let's check it out. So let me give you some examples here. Okay, we've got a native speaker of Japanese. Um, and so he says something, right? We've got three people standing there, and one guy can't speak Japanese at all, right? Another guy speaks a little bit of Japanese, right? And so the native speaker says blah 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 blah, right? And neither one of them can understand it. So, but the can't speak Japanese guy is depending on this guy, right, to try to maybe see if he understood it. And so he says blah 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 blah, and he says, "What did he say?" And he says, "What did he say?" And a little Japanese guy says, "I don't know. He was talking a mile a minute," right? Okay, so it just means very fast. Okay, so let's say we had some incident that happened. Maybe it was could be a car accident. In this case, it was a crime, right? Somebody was attacked. So the police officer number two, he arrived at the scene just now, and he says, "What happened?" Police officer number one, who's been there a while, says, "I don't know the whole story. The victim was talking a mile a minute, was talking to me a mile a minute," which means very fast. Okay, come down here. A mile a minute equals 60 miles an hour, and especially by the old standards, that's considered to be very fast. And also, it just goes by the way it comes out of your mouth, a mile a minute, right? Okay. So a native speaker would say this so fast, and he would expect you to know it, right? And that's why I made this channel, because there's so much of this. Okay. So, uh, so this lady's talking about meditation, and that's when you're trying to relax your mind, right? And slow your mind down. And she's talking about how beginners at meditating can't do it, right?
A lot. And from beginner meditators, they're always saying, my mind is racing a mile a minute.
Okay, means very fast. My mind is racing a mile a minute.
Of ideas. Your thoughts are just going a mile a minute.
Okay, similar kind of thing. This is talking about some problem, like a mental problem, you know. Um, like it's called mania, right? But you drink enough coffee and you're going to feel some kind of mania, right? When you drink a lot of coffee, then your mind is going a mile a minute. Okay, or you engage in some kind of sports activity where you have to think fast. Your mind is going a mile a minute. Now, this guy is a language learner. He speaks a lot of languages, right? So he's always giving some advice about learning languages, right? And so he's trying to say, don't worry about it, you're going to get better. Okay, watch.
And they're all talking a mile a minute.
and they're all talking a mile a minute, means people speaking another language, right? So some people who watch my channel might think, oh my gosh, he's talking a mile a minute. And then some people, if they're native speakers, they tune in and they say, why is he talking so slow? Okay, now I want to go to one of my favorite childhood shows. It was called The $6 Million Man. All right, so this pilot gets into this plane crash, and so he's very seriously hurt. So what they do is they've got the technology now at the time of this that they could rebuild him with kind of like robot arms and stuff. They called it bionics, which means kind of a mix between a robot and a man.
Steve Austin, astronaut, a man barely alive.
Okay, bionic, right? So I'm going to turn this down. So he lost an arm, but at that time, they had just, it was a time when they thought we really have high technology because we could put a man on the moon, and they thought the public could imagine this science fiction thing, right? So they completely rebuilt it with a very convincing, prosthetic hands and stuff. But the thing of it is, all of this robot stuff was extremely superhuman, right? So then he became like a superhero spy working for the U.S. government. Fiction, of course. So he's got a bionic eye. Okay, I can remember seeing this. It was just terrifying when I was a kid. All right. Now watch this. They got him on the treadmill. And he's got the ability to run like as fast as a car. Okay? He's running a mile a minute at that time. Okay? That's so cool. All right. So anyway, there you go. A mile a minute. It can be used. My mind is racing a mile a minute. Or, we're going a mile a minute right now. Or she was talking a mile a minute. Right? Those... I couldn't understand anything because they're talking a mile a minute, all right? So I will talk to you on the next idiom.